Okay, I've just yesterday been to the launch, the big event, latest updates from the French partnership between Thales and Google Cloud, which claims to be Europe's first hyperscaler. So that was interesting. First, let's dig into this sovereignty thing. I don't want to reiterate too much, but essentially it started as a backlash to the US Cloud Act, which was largely a privacy thing. Being able to access data from other countries because it's residing in the US or it's on US servers elsewhere. Put the jitters up. Other countries, Europe kind of led the charge, but it's seeing similar in Africa and in South America and I'm sure other parts of the world. It does beg the question of why it's needed, and whilst I might have asked that question a year ago and the answer would be less conclusive, fast forward 12 months and it seems to be a lot more obvious why we need cloud technologies that are nonetheless available and continuous for nation states and respect the needs of nation states. There's the question of definitions, but I think it's a bit like digital transformation or any of these big broad conceptual things. We can argue about the definition all we like, but everyone understands the need. The hyperscalers were largely kind of ignore it and let's hope it goes away. That's Microsoft, AWS, Google. So very US-centric companies. Their model was always, you don't need to know where your data is. It's in the cloud somewhere, and a little bit get over yourself. It's the journey to the cloud. This is the new normal. But they've had to move that thinking forward. So we've ended up with a variety of models from the different hyperscalers, and they're at different stages of their journeys, and of which this S3NS initiative is one example. So in France already there was the Microsoft, Orange and a consulting firm which will come back to me, German tie-up called Bleu. That was launched a year or so ago, but Thales and Google claim that this is the first, because then there's a bit of clever jiggery with the use of standards. So in France there's a secure networking initiative which is all about setting standards for the cloud and data transfers, and there's trusted computing standards. Interestingly, Thales and Google were talking about trusted computing as being the thing that they're delivering, and sovereign cloud being the purpose that they're supporting. I paraphrase, but that's kind of the idea. And there's some European standards emerging as well around cloud. So watch that space. They're not fully formed yet, but work in progress. So what's the net of this, and why should you care? First thing you have to think about is cost, and that's going to be between 20 and 30% more than you're currently paying. But I'm not 100% bought into the idea that that's the biggest deal, although obviously no one wants to pay 30% more. I'm a big fan, as you'll know if you're following these things, of FinOps, which ultimately means knowing what you're spending in the first place. And the reason it even exists is because people don't know what they're spending and end up spending too much and end up spending that 20 to 30%. So it's a case more of knowing where you're spending your money, to me, is more important than the amount that you're spending, and you shouldn't end up spending any more as a result. The thing is really about the use cases. So there's obviously some data that you absolutely want to keep close to home. So anything relating to government activity, anti-fraud, anti-terrorism, those kinds of things, but also then healthcare, also then science, and where you have reason to believe that your data would be safer in country. But the other set of reasons is really about the sovereignty question itself, which is, if we think about the alternative to sovereignty, it's essentially about a trade decision and an assumption that other people can do things better elsewhere than we can do them here, wherever here may be. I know when I looked into sovereignty before, from a broader perspective, it was as much about skills, human resources, keeping talent in country, keeping innovation in country, as it was about just where can I run this as cheaply as possible. It came up yesterday. I was in a session with Steria, talking about the principles of sovereignty, and they mentioned ethics and just kind of and the expression was principles. They may be different everywhere, but the principles that you have are your principles, and you may want to apply those rather than other people's principles. As ever with governance topics, it becomes a question of do you have to do it? That's the first question. If not, do you need to do it? Do you want to do it? So if you have to do it, then it's about working out what you have to do it for, why, what particular workloads are relevant, which, for example, comes down to data classification or application classification, or checking with the regulations that you're actively required to follow, and almost compartmentalizing or scoping your activity according to that. You may be contractually obliged when you're working with organizations in a different country, you're supplying to them to fulfill their sovereign requirements, so you may have no choice from a contractual perspective. This isn't a kind of one-size-fits-all solution. You don't have to be all in on sovereignty. It's about cutting your cloth, and you don't want to be paying 30% extra across everything that you're doing, unless that's a corporate level strategic business decision to keep everything in country, or whether you're a government organisation that also is choosing to do that for reasons of your own. So with everything else that's going on, it's important to pay as much attention to your own data and workload assets, and worry about that first, and then think about what needs to be sovereign, rather than worrying about sovereignty from the outset. But it's good to know that there's more and more solutions appearing out there that can support you on your, if I may, sovereignty journey.